Okay, I think it's about time we got going since we've been talking for like a half an hour before we even turn the mics on. My guest today is Lysa Miller. She's president and co-founder of 3 Media Web. And before that, founder of Ladybugs, another digital agency. She's also the founder of the Metro West Women's Network and Cowork Hudson. So you've been busy over the last few years, and I want to talk about sort of what went on behind the scenes and how that all came to be.
Awesome.
So can we just start with your current business, 3 Media Web, and what is it? What do you do? And, just give us the lay of the land.
So 3 Media Web is basically a web design and development and support agency for mid-size and enterprise level companies. We specialize in WordPress as our platform, and, we kind of tote ourselves as being the best or being the specialist at WordPress, like in this region. And on top of that, we offer, digital growth to those clients that we service. So we are expanding into that whole digital growth area, which for B2B and enterprise companies is a lot different than, the B2C marketing that you see a lot of these other agencies doing. So it's definitely a really interesting business. We chose that focus, and, that's what we're going with, and it's going really awesome.
And when you say we, tell me like how many people are at the company, what type of positions do you keep on staff? I've been there, but for everybody else, tell us a little bit about the business.
So we like to call ourselves a mid-size agency. We are 20 people on staff. We have everything from project management is definitely one of the main focuses of our company, because we feel like if you have really great project managers, it doesn't really matter like how you source your talent, whether they're full-time employees, whether they're contractors. We do tend to use mostly local people for everything that we do. We have on staff, a digital strategist, a digital project manager, some developers, creative director, designer. So we pretty much have the whole gamut of everything that you would need to run a digital agency. So about, 12 of us are actually in the Hudson area and are regularly staffed in the office. A few of our other people are, Western Mass. We have a couple people in North Carolina, like somebody out in Nebraska. So some of our employees were originally here and they moved. So we like to be flexible like that, and we don't require, our employees to actually have to be in the office every day.
Well, plus that lets you have your tentacles go further out across the country.
Yeah, you have to go where the best talent is. Right. So it's been a great model. I think it's hard to do it with everybody. I think you definitely need like a core team for what we do. But I think in general, we can definitely source from around the country pretty easily. Yeah,
well, I think times have changed and it's become a lot more efficient to do that. But it is good to have the core where you can sit and brainstorm and work through issues and target things in a room together, which is huge too. So, and you have a partner in this one, right?
So I actually have 2 partners.
2.
My main partner is Mark Avila. He was actually the founder of 3 Media Web. And we've been together for about 4 years. And this year we brought in a third partner to help with, she's been helping with operations over the last 3 years. So we felt like she would, make a good partner and help us continue to scale the operations and, have a little bit more investment in the company. So there's 3 of us now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So there's a partnership
Three's
path
company.
to the agency. Yeah, that's awesome. And how long ago did you and Mark come together?
So Mark and I actually met on Twitter like about 6 years ago. So that's how we originally met. And he reached out to me to refer me some work, and I did a project that he referred me. I sent him like a referral check, like after I got it, and I didn't really know him, but I'm just kind of like, I'm kind of about that. Like if somebody does something nice for you, you however you want to thank them, it's up to you. But
me too.
He really, really appreciated that. And so after that, he's like, we should get together for lunch. And so we got together, and, we really, really liked each other personally. And business-wise, we decided to, work on projects together. And so we did that for like about a year. We worked on some really big projects, actually. And Ladybugs, my old agency, I was more of a digital marketing agency. I did websites too, but some of my clients were getting bigger and they required like bigger solutions. Like I had one client that was a biotech. They had like 3 or 4 websites. They wanted to e-commerce it. They wanted to rebrand it. And I just didn't really have the infrastructure to do that. So I hired him to do that. And that was kind of like the beginning of where we are now. We just really worked well together on that. And about a year later, we merged our companies.
So that's kind of cool. You found out you worked well together by working together before you made the leap.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome. And he's one of the people that's now around the country, right?
Exactly. He's out in Grand Rapids.
And what's that done? What's that been like to adjust for that?
So, going back into the story, there's a little bit to it, but basically I got at operations about 1.5 years ago. So either way, like for me, it doesn't really affect anything because I'm not involved in operations like at all. I only am involved in operations if they need my expertise on something. But for the most part, we have this model of like, you guys run the business. I'll continue like down our strategic growth path and make sure that we're going to be successful. Because when you're running the company, it's too hard to think on that level. So when he left, for me, it wasn't really a huge deal because we weren't really doing a lot of work together, even though we're partners. We definitely like have our like monthly meetings and stuff like that, but I try to stay out of his way basically. And he tries to stay out of my way.
Which is a good partnership.
Yeah. I mean, it's the visionary integrator relationship that we have. And so for me, I think for the team, I think they miss him a little bit. We call him the Godfather. So he's kind of like the Godfather of everybody, you know? So we miss him, you know, personally. But other than that, the business has been running really smoothly. I can't believe that it did because he was so involved with everything. But he's done a really great job. I actually really commend him for that because if I moved away, I'd be like, whatever. I'd be like, you know, there's less accountability when you're, you know, but
he comes back too, though, right? I mean, I saw him, I think 2 times ago I was over visiting.
Yeah, so he's actually here right now. But
oh, no kidding.
He comes about once a month for a week, and I've been out there once. I'm heading out there again in February. So that'll be fun.
Once a month's really not that bad. I mean, that's not sparse at all to have a face-to-face when you can always have phone and Skype and everything else. That's really not so bad.
Yeah, and like honestly, I love seeing him, but I feel like he doesn't even really need to do that. So, you know, because we have the business so organized and running well that, you know, and it's nice because I think he can sleep at night knowing that. And he went on vacation for a weekend. Like when he was gone, we closed a bunch of deals and he comes back and he's like, you closed all these deals without me? We're like, yep.
Don't leave me out of this. Before we turn the mics on, you were talking about people at the company and what's important to you about creating the environment. Mm-hmm. Tell me, I want to know more about, that's when I find one of the most interesting things about people that manage people. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to talk about it, we go back, just revisit what's important to you when you're hiring people and creating the environment at 3 Media Web. Because I think it ties into exactly what you're saying, where things are getting done and people are being responsible, whether or not there's a watchdog or the Godfather figure. Work is getting done. People have autonomy, but there's still, the whole ship is moving forward. And I think a lot of that's probably in the way that you treat people and the way that you foster that environment.
Yeah, well, we follow a lot of the Gino Wickman principles. If you're familiar with those books, like Traction, Rocket Fuel. So we're always looking for A players, basically. And a lot of the people we hire end up being people we know or people that know someone we know. I think you said the same thing about this yourself. You like hire your friends. But you know, for example, if somebody coming in today, it's somebody that I met a while ago that I thought could have potential someday to work for 3 Media Web, you know, fostered a relationship and you know, we'll bring that person in and talk to them. And, you know, so you kind of get to know them a little bit personally. Yeah. I feel like the people that we've hired, like that came to us, like without really anybody knowing, were, you know, a few of them were not successful. And so it's definitely beneficial to have a little bit of a relationship with the people or a referral from, we have another guy that's been working for our company. He brought on another woman that he used to work with. So that was a really great fit. And we had someone from another agency come in as a project manager and she brought somebody from her agency. So that seems to be how it goes. And one of the typical reasons people come to us is because they are not happy in their job. We just got, you know, we just have the greatest talent. And I just feel like, how come they didn't treat these people better? These people are amazing. Like, so I don't understand that whole philosophy.
Well, that's what I was getting at with you guys is it's still professional, but there's a personal relationship. You care about their lives. You care about them as people. They're not a cog in the wheel. Right. And
we're family.
I think that's some of the difference. That's what I was trying to scratch at is that I think there's another friendly agency of ours that the CEO is also on the podcast, and they're very much the same way. They're similar to you guys. They have a larger staff. They have a different model than me. They're more like you, and they're constantly putting effort into, like, they're probably their biggest focus is making the place a better place to work, and then sales, or then servicing clients, and then sales. But it amazes me because they have. It's not just that they're trying to do the right thing; they're actively engaged and passionate in making those people happier people, making it a better place to work, which I think is it's a no-lose situation.
No, culture is the driver to everything. And I think a lot of companies are starting to realize that. I mean, I think you're lucky if you're a startup. Like if you look at Wistia, I don't know if you follow them. I mean, that looks like the most fun place ever to work.
It does. And good tools
I'm
too.
Wearing their shirt right now. So, I mean, and they're a younger generation too. Like at our company, I feel like we have kind of a mixed range of people in terms of age. Our employees tend to be a little bit more mature. We don't really have a ton of like 20-year-olds and stuff like that. Whereas like Wistia, they're all so young. So the fact that they've built a culture on that generation, because that's what that generation is really looking for. And to them, like that's all they really know. Like so many companies now are like that you go there, they have the ping pong table, they have the work lunches, they have yoga, like whatever. And, the older, more established companies are struggling to just keep people.
Right, because they have chain of command and paperwork. And I think there's probably a mix between the two, though, that create happiness, too, because ping pong tables and beer on tap and all of that, without an active management fostering a community, doesn't create the community or the culture that you're talking about. So I've seen a lot of startups, too, that get all the stuff, but then they fold because people are always bouncing and come in and out. And it's not a place to be, that people don't find pride in their work because they're not part of a thing. They're not part of a team. They're just a cog in a wheel with fancy stuff around, versus the ones who do treat it that way. I've even seen a lot of successful companies with great culture that don't have a lot of the frills. Maybe they don't, or maybe they haven't gotten there yet, and upgraded the office. But what they do have is very dedicated people that are happy to be at work and happy to move the company forward. I think there's a big difference in leadership with, are people focused on their job, or are people focused on what the company is doing and what they have to do to help the company do what it's doing? And those are two very different things. That seem obvious, but I don't think they're obvious to everybody.
And I think that's a hard thing to continue to foster, because people do get stuck in their jobs. So always making them feel like they're part of the end success of the company. I mean, I talk about our team a lot. I think in the beginning, I thought like a lot of it was us, the business partners, and like that we were driving the business. And because I never really thought about having a big team before, and the team that was brought to me wasn't my team. So originally, for me, it took me, I'm an offender. Like I was like, okay, we have this team, but, I was really focusing on us as owners and how we were going to grow the business. But my business partner is like really drilled into me, like we wouldn't be here if we didn't have these amazing people. I mean, not that it was hard, but I just wasn't in that mindset in the beginning. And the more I embraced that, and the more that I tried to foster that, I think that has definitely really helped, like, and not just me, but my business partners too. And, that's what has made us a great company. And we were one of those companies where we didn't have any perks. Like we were small, we were merging, we didn't have health insurance, we weren't able to give bonuses. We didn't even know if we were going to be in business the next year.
Right.
So, the fact that we got there to here that, we had these people, we did always pay well. That is definitely something we always valued, is to pay people what they're worth. But I just think the flexibility we gave people was what really drove people to want to stay with us, because, we have some single moms. They could go to football games, come back at night, get their work done. Our whole philosophy is, if you get your work done and our clients are happy, like there's no questions asked.
Yeah.
If we start seeing, obviously unhappy clients, then we have to go and look at that. But I think everybody in our company is responsible for their work, and we don't really have, a lot of problems around that. So
flexibility is so key, and it's life isn't the way that life used to be. It's just simply not. Whether you're a single mom or a single dad or not, it's still not the same. Because if you go back to when the 9-to-5 was invented, it was primarily built around factory culture and one parent or one person in the family working, the other one home. There was a tremendous amount more time that allotted freedom. Now that time is gone, where the average household, if there's two people in it, they both work, right? So then the kids need after school activities. They need, there simply isn't the amount of time there used to be in a day for a typical American. It's just, there isn't. But yet if you were to survey the average company, they still run like it's 1950. And that's why people are so burnt out and people are so frustrated and so unhappy. And people are unhappy. A lot of people are unhappy. You know, they're tied to their job. They're tied to a paycheck. They wish they had it better. They wish they had more flexibility. And I think, to your point, when you offer that flexibility, you're not just giving them a job that they can love, but you're giving them back their life.
I love that.
But it's true, because when you can go to that football game and see your son or daughter play, when you can be a part of those moments and then come back and finish up work, it changes everything. You know, people are going to be sick of me saying it because I'm always saying it, but the part of the way I view my compensation for owning my business is time. I value it very much, and I pay myself partly in time. In that, I am at all the games. I am at all the events, practices, Cub Scout meetings, whatever it is, I'm there. And when I go home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I put my phone away until the kids are in bed, away, like not visible, not in my pocket, but gone. And I'll get back to it because I can, and I can work at 9 o'clock. I can do what I need to do when I need to do it, but I have the flexibility to be the family man that I want to be. It's worth more than any paycheck that somebody could offer me. It's, you know, and it's, I think that getting that life back it's hard to put into words just what it means. And I think you see and you reap the rewards of just providing a culture that fosters that. So you have people that are loyal and people that want to work and people will get it done. The key is finding the people who will get it done. Right. Because there's always going to be some that game the system in any environment. And you just got to learn how to either filter those people out or weed them out once you see that they're trying to game the system and take advantage. But that's not all that hard to spot. You know, you can, when they're not getting it done, they're not getting it done. Right.
And I mean, it's also about like how excited they get about the work. Like for me, like people are like, if you made $1 million and sold your agency and you could retire, like what would you do? Like I would just start another company. Like I would not do nothing because there's just people that need to use their talents and their brain. And my talent is not athletic or it's not, you know, whatever, it's creative. And so if I wasn't using that side of my brain, and so when people come in and we interview them and we tell them like, okay, you're going to be like, let's say a social media manager, and they're like, oh, I love Twitter. And, you know, and you see them active on there, like it's not hard to tell when somebody loves what they're doing. But then there's the other people that are like, you know, they're like, well, I'm an expert at this. And you go and you look at their stuff online, you're like, like you're not even on Twitter.
How are we
so
defining
how are you going to manage it for our clients? Like, you know, so I think, yeah, you're right. It's pretty easy to spot. People get excited. If you get excited about your work, that means you love it. And those are the people that you want to have. But you don't want the people that are just, all they care about is work. Well, actually, that doesn't matter either. If they just want to care about work and that's what fulfills them, then they're welcome to work for us.
Yeah, to each their own. But I do prefer a well-rounded person, someone that has interests, because I think they're going to keep themselves energized more than burnout, which is something you worry about too. You know what I've noticed though, over the years with finding people, like you mentioned, as a person who's going to manage social media, not on Twitter, you're obviously not into what you do. The hardest one to gauge whether they like what they do is developers. Because they, some of them, some of them know, but some of them, and some of the best ones, some of the ones that, you know, work for me to this day that I love, they're fantastic. There's no emotion in it. It's almost like they get a directive and they execute that directive, and that you know, it makes them happy and it's what they like to do. But you can't outwardly, you're just like, show me something. Smile, get excited.
It's true. But lead developers tend to be get a little more excited about it. I find like we have this awesome lead developer and we'll be like, okay, we have this project. It sounds like it could be really hard. And I mean, he gets excited and fired us. It was like, no, we can do this with the PHP and the integration. And like, I can't even speak the language, sorry. But he gets super excited about these development projects. And he's really like a development visionary. Like you wouldn't think of a like kind of visionary as a developer, but he can kind of, in his mind, think about how the code's going to work, like how it would work, how the processes would work, and that actually excites him. So
and then back into the solution from there, kind of seeing
and then
the
the people under him, well, maybe that they are not as excited about development, but some people really enjoy the math, like the coding.
I think they're excited. They just don't show it. I think it's just hard. It's hard to see it. You can't peel it back. I think inside their head, they're having a ball typing away.
I always have to like tap them when I'm walking by them. There's this one guy, John, I was like tap him, like, hi,
So when you first came into 3 Media Web, you mentioned that the whole core team and all of that was kind of new and foreign to you. What was it like adapting to that?
Well, originally the team was like almost 100% remote for that business. So I'm the one who, and then my team was local. So I'm the one who actually said, like, let's get an office, let's form a real physical business here, and we'll merge the remote people and the local people. And so that was definitely, for me, really, really new. I mean, I had worked with a few local people because I had one developer that was in India, and I've like known him even to now, like 10 or 15 years. So we kind of figured out a remote way to work, but I also wasn't familiar with like the processes and the management side of 3 Media Web. So I didn't really know how Mark ran his company until I actually came in and, saw that.
So you kind of made the leap before you knew everything about it?
Yeah, because he managed, like if I worked with him on a project, I just brought him in as a value-added partner. I wasn't involved. So I'd be like, this is my partner, 3 Media Web. They're going to do the website, so I didn't really question anything they did. So as long as they were successful, I was happy with them. So when we got in and started working together, it was, it didn't really affect me that much because I didn't really work on that side of things. So, most of my interaction with the staff was the local people who were doing like the social media. And we had like a smaller website build team where we did more like theme-based websites too. So, the larger team is doing like all custom design, custom development, but we also had a part of the team that was doing like more templated based stuff. So I worked more with them because I'm more of like a front end designer and, UI designer. So, I never really crossed over, but like now, we kind of reformed the business and we don't do that small stuff anymore. So now I'm definitely more involved with the team, but again, I'm not managing them or anything like that. My job with the team is to really help build culture and continue that and continue to inspire them about the company and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I wouldn't have guessed. That's why I was curious. I wouldn't have guessed that it was too foreign to you because of you seem from what I know of you and the times that we've met and hung out, you're really passionate about working with the people, and you're also really good with people. Like you have an authentic air to you. You would actually enjoy engaging in a conversation. It seems like it would be a natural fit for you.
Yeah, like managing their work is definitely not my strength, because it it was not my original role to ever manage those people. I was good at managing like my creative people, but that's worked out really well too, because I kind of like, I'm never the bad guy. I'm always like the fun guy. So it's like, I kind of like that role, and if bad work needs to be done or, any kind of employee problems we have, I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah. I make a real strong effort when hiring to hire people I don't have to manage. It's not that easy to do, but it is a weakness. Especially if it's somebody that requires a micromanaging.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just wrong place.
You can't have that.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah,
I'll be too frustrated with you and you can't stay.
Yeah. I mean, I think at this level, like working in an agency, you can't micromanage people unless it's an intern or you're training someone. At some point, people shouldn't have to be managed, really.
Right. You should know your job and you should be able to do it and think forward. So backing up before 3 Media Web, you mentioned Ladybugs, which led to 3 Media Web. So I want to talk about Ladybugs and how that came to be. But why don't we just go back to pre-Ladybugs? What was your background?
Oh my God. So, I'm Canadian.
And the reason I'm asking is I want to know if your background was, always gearing you towards doing this, where there's no wrong answer, because there's people that just, like Rhonda, the one she did the podcast a while back from the coffee shop, didn't know anything about coffee when she opened it.
Oh, that's funny.
She did it to fight human trafficking and take a part in fair trade.
I listened to her podcast.
Wasn't she great? But it blew my mind to hear that. So I'm not, there's no setup to the question. I'm not asking for the right answer. You don't have to tell a magical tale. I'm just curious, generally curious about business owners and how they end up. Because like I said, I started as a record label, end up as a marketing house, right? So prior to Ladybugs, what was Lysa doing?
So like I said, I'm from Canada, and I, like just in high school and stuff, I was just always like social.
Where in Canada?
I'm from Prince Edward Island.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So my parents were just always like, you're so creative. You should do something creative. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll go to art school. And they're like, no, you can't do that. That's like not real school. So they're like, you're such a good writer. Why don't you do writing? So I'm like, okay. So I applied to some journalism schools, and I applied to this public relations school, and I ended up actually choosing the public relations school because it was it was more not just journalism. There was like more marketing kind of integrated with it. And I was like, oh, this looks like a really fun program. So I got there and I realized like, I'm actually not that great of a writer. I'm not that great of a, like, I'm just like not really good at anything that forces me to do things a certain way. Like I'm always going to do things like not other people's way. But I did get through. I did get through school. I graduated, but I got really interested in business, and I ended up doing an extra year of extra business courses in entrepreneurship, and I just really loved it. And all through college, I freelanced. I freelanced for a paper. I had like my own little business, and so
Same.
Yeah. So I think I always knew that I was going to own an agency. Because in my program at school, that's what a lot of people did. They did start their own agencies later, and they were like these companies you aspired to. It's like, oh, this person owns this PR firm in Toronto, and so I think I always had that in the back of my mind. But my first job from college, I went up to Toronto, and I worked for the Ontario Medical Association, like in their communications department. And I was always like kind of gifted anyways, like graphically. So I'm creative. So they're like, well, you can design our newsletters and our annual report. And so I did that for a little while, and then they're like, we're going to start a website. Do you want to just do the website and manage it? And I'm like, okay. So that was like really early on. That was like 19. I graduated in like 93. So
those are fun opportunities. I remember stuff like that back then where because the client didn't know anything about websites either. I mean, websites were a kind of new thing.
Yeah, I knew nothing about it, but they thought because I was young, because I was like the young kids now that know like TikTok. Mm-hmm. So they just put me in that role, and that was definitely what just completely like solidified my career. So I knew I loved the web. I knew and because I had that PR background, I got to like write about the web, and I got to write for magazines. And then when I came to the US, I had met my husband, and I wanted to, he wasn't my husband at the time, he was my boyfriend, but I wanted to move here so I could be near him. So I got a job here, and I worked for an agency. So I kind of feel like I've come full circle because I worked in that agency, although I was a grunt and I did everything. That agency got bought and like blah, 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 back in the .com days. Went to CBS Interactive, worked there for a couple of years. And then that's when I started Ladybugs, because I started having kids and I just couldn't do the whole corporate thing. It's like commuting like 2 hours into Boston every day, having to be there for every single meeting, like not being able to work from home. I'm like, you're an interactive company and this is how you treat people? No, thanks. So that's when I started Ladybugs.
And then, so you decide to create your own answer to the problem and make Ladybugs. And so I want to hear about Ladybugs, but I'm most interested in how you got Ladybugs going. Mm-hmm. Like, what was the driver behind it, aside from just not liking the commute and the way they treated people? But like, so you got that inspiration to not treat people that way and get rid of the commute. But what else went into creating that business? And you also mentioned or glanced over, but they're big things. In that same period of time, you got married and started having kids and building your family too, right? Which is no small task, and it's a lot of work. That's in fact one of the things I forgot to mention in the beginning with your jobs is you're a mom. That's another full-time gig, right? So let's talk a little bit about how Ladybugs forms and what else is going on at that time, because that adds complexity, right?
Yeah, well, when I was at that first digital agency, it was in Portland, Maine. I basically learned everything, like from SEO to, becoming a really good web designer. I knew a lot about connectivity, and I just basically learned everything in that agency because we were so small. Like I was an expert at everything by the time I left there. And I mean, this was really only my second job. The first job I only had for 2 years. So, when I was at that agency, I formed a lot of really great relationships. And because we didn't do a lot of, smaller work, we would get, leads and stuff for sites people would want done. So our bosses were like, well, if you guys want to do freelance work, go for it or whatever. You can have this client.
Well, that's cool. They would let you too.
Yeah. So me and this other woman took on a couple projects, and because it was us two women, we decided to call it Ladybugs. And she was our creative director, and she was
It's a catchy name.
Yeah. So she was wicked talented. So she ended up actually going to ATG, which was a really big web design firm back in the .com days. So she couldn't commit to doing anything with me anymore. So when that agency got bought, some of the clients actually came with me. They wanted to continue to work with me, and they didn't go with the new company. And they were small enough that the company didn't really care. They were kind of weeding them out anyways. So I kind of already had I was working at CBS, and I already had a book of clients that I had already been working with through Ladybugs. So it was kind of an easy transition to leave. Obviously I wasn't going to make as much money, but I quickly was able to recoup that, and go on and have like my family and like live my life and kind of do what I want for like the next 10 years,
So you started before having the family?
I definitely started it in Portland, like before I had my kids. Yeah.
It's an awesome city, by the way.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I followed a lot of bands back then.
I like Gritty's. I try to go there every time I swing through there.
Yeah. So
how long did you have the business going before you started having kids? Before you started having a family?
Well, full time, I had it probably maybe for a year.
And what did it look like at that time? It was you, and you were doing a lot of the actual work, right? You were designing websites.
I was kind of like double dipping because I had my full-time job and then I had all my freelance clients. So I was like financially kind of killing it. So I was like really loving that part of it. But then when I left, I had really good clients. Like I had a division of Genzyme was one of my clients.
Nice.
And they actually stayed a client for maybe 10 or 12 years. I had a hotel chain in Maine that was a client forever. I can't even really remember who some of those original clients were. But I tended to specialize in hospitality and tourism. So a lot of the Ladybugs clients were hospitality and tourism clients. So that was sort of my specialty. So that was fun because it was like really, you can be really creative. Wedding venues were a big thing for me. I grew a lot of wedding businesses. So then when I really started doing Ladybugs like full time, it was probably only about 6 or 7 years ago. So, over those years of having kids, because I had 4 and my husband traveled, I could really only handle so much work. And I just didn't want to build a team. And even when, Mark and I partnered up, the reason I didn't take on those big web projects was because I didn't want to have a team. So I just knew I wasn't going to be a good person to manage a team.
Yeah,
so you just accept those things and find a better solution.
Well, it's not just about not being good at managing a team. The business reflected your life, right? It gave. We were talking about, I think it was before we started. Anyway, talking about freedom, and so that the way that you ran Ladybugs seems like it gave you the freedom to be a mom to 4 with a traveling husband and get things done. Yeah,
I was definitely like one of those internet entrepreneurs that you see now, like where you see them on the beach working. Like that was me. Like I spent my whole summers on Prince Edward Island with my kids, on my computer on my front deck overlooking the ocean. I would go to my sister-in-law lived in Vegas, so I'd go out there for like a month or whatever every year. So I definitely traveled a lot and did that kind of stuff with when I had 2 kids. But then when I started having more children, that was nothing to do with the business. It's just not fun getting on a plane with 4 children.
No, the world is much more difficult for that large of a party.
But, I had a big client after I had my 4, I had a big client that was at like a golf resort. So I kind of took them on as a big client. And that was really great too, because, my kids could come over and we could have dinner there and we could hang out and they played golf. And so, even the clients I took on, that related to my family too. So, just taking that client on and knowing that I could bring my kids there and they loved me. So they treated me like so well. And, so it was really great. And it was a great time in my life that I look back and I'm like, it was so much fun when I worked at this place. My kids played golf and, all that kind of stuff.
So what do you think led to make the change? Was it just the right time in life to get back into having a team? So it sounds like Ladybug suited you really well. You're no brick or mortar. You're able to be wherever you want and get your work done.
Yeah. So Ladybugs was doing really well, and I was doing really well, like with, profitability and like financially. But where I was struggling was with I kind of got to the point where I had to make a decision. Was I going to keep it more like this freelance type business? And even though, like I said, the money was great, or would I rather have a partner and expand the business and be a real company? And going back to when I was young, my dad was an entrepreneur, and I always had big dreams. I want to own a company someday. I just always had that in my brain. I want to be a company owner. I want to be someone. And I know that doesn't define who you are, but my whole life, I think I've been setting myself up for this. And so it was just the right time. My business was just doing so well. And when I met Mark, it just seemed like a natural, next step. I also missed having somebody to kind of enjoy the ride with. And my husband wasn't really interested in getting involved in my business. So it just seemed like a perfect fit. And, a lot of other stuff transpired around that time, which wasn't the greatest. I got divorced and some different stuff like that, but it all worked out really, really well. I feel like the universe was like just waiting for me to get to this place and be in a good place in my life where I could really use my gift to do whatever it is I wanted to do.
It's funny how that happens. Huh? Things start to come into line, and some things go away while other things are newly born.
Everything's about timing. So, it was always my dream to have a big family. Like, I had too many dreams. That's my problem. Like, if I just had one dream, like, that would have been so easy, but I wanted it all. I wanted to have lots of kids. I wanted to have a business. So I've gotten everything I've wanted, just not in my time. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I've learned now, that I don't put a time on anything. Like, everything's due in its own time. And I think living your life that way, that, things will unfold how they're supposed to unfold, is a really great way to live. And that's just something I've learned in the last couple of years, because I've always lived my life with like an end goal. Like, I'm going to do this by this, and I'm going to, and now I feel like I'm going to enjoy every day. I'm going to enjoy the journey. I'm going to enjoy the people in my life. And my big thing is I love people. Like, if I'm not around people, I'm not having fun.
Yeah.
I am not an introvert at all. I can be by myself for like 2 hours to write a story or like, go to meditation, but I gain my energy from people. So that's the other great thing about what I love, my job, is
Wouldn't life be great if you could realize all those things at like 15 years old? Because I feel like I didn't have any of those similar realizations until I was like mid 30s or 40, when I started actually living what I think is a better way, and which I'm sure when I'm 50, I'll be looking back saying, well, I was a fool at 42. But when I look back on my 20s and 30s, it was just primarily misspent energy. Mm-hmm. If you could know. I
think your mother knew when she told you, but you didn't listen to her.
You don't listen to anybody. You can't.
Exactly.
You can't. If only you could. If only you could. And I tell my kids, but if only you could take that information and actually process it and use it.
But you have to live it.
You do.
Because it has to be, you have to feel it, understand it by feeling it and living it, and, doing all those things. And like, sometimes I look back and I'm like, I had known that 4 kids would have been so much work, maybe I
can't even imagine. 2 kids is a lot of work.
People be like, you want to have 4 kids? I'm like, yeah, But I never really thought about, when I wanted things, like the consequences of what that would mean for me. I don't regret having 4 kids at all.
No, but it is a lot of work.
But it is a lot of work, yeah.
We have 2, and 2 is a lot of work. I think 1's probably a lot of work. It's the kids they're fun, but man, do they consume time. I
know. And like Kobe Bryant, they made a video after he died on Goalpost. I don't know if you saw it, but it was all about like how hard he worked, but how hard he worked also at home. Mm-hmm. Like, he wouldn't miss his daughter's birthday, and he said he would be tired, and like, he's going back to being like a mother, and a young mother, where I had like, 4 kids under the age of 5. It's like, you get to those days where you're just like, it's supposed to be a joy. Like, this is supposed to be a joy, and it's not a joy. Like, you're just like, how am I going to get through this day?
It's a struggle.
But like struggle, he just said, you just keep going. You just do it, and you just keep going, And I think that's what I did, like, on those days. Plus, I worked, and my husband wasn't around. So, I just had to always get through those days, and my kids got me through those days. So
that's great.
You got to read to their little faces, and Thomas the Train, and, watch Barbie movies, and, it's all good.
And they're all pretty close in age. You said they were all under 5?
Yeah, I think like my kids are like, when they were little, like obviously they were really all young, but now they are 20, 18, 13, and 12.
They all get along well enough?
Yeah, they're all great. They're all great kids.
Awesome.
Yeah, obviously, they've had their own challenges throughout their lives, but again, like I just feel like they're great kids, and they're well adjusted because of that. Like, you think you have like things happen to you, and it stinks, and like whatever, but that makes them better people.
Yeah. It's what you do with what happens to you that makes who you are, not what happens to you.
Yeah, like if you look at some of the kids now and their parents protect them and shield them from whatever failing or getting in trouble or being last on the basketball team, those are the kids, I think, that don't have the coping skills to, and it's not their fault. Like, you know, when I was in college, I didn't call my mom like, I need money, I need this. Like, I figured it out, like, because that's how I was raised, you know. I worked.
It wasn't even in my head to call.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, I was a grown up. When I left and went to college, I was on my own, you know, and it was not a bad thing. It was a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, but now kids aren't on their own when they go to college.
No. I was on my own. I don't know if I'd call myself a grown up, but I was independent.
Yeah. I mean, I was financially independent. I was emotionally independent, and I loved my parents. Like, we got along great. You know, I would go visit them. You know, my parents were great, and they raised me really great. I'm not saying life was perfect, but they were really, really great parents. I guess I'm lucky. Not everybody has that.
No, I got lucky too. I have a great family, and I'm thankful for it.
And everybody
I'm thankful
in my
they
family
put up
gets
with
along.
me because I was a dick. I'm really. I was seriously like, my teenage years. I was just a nightmare.
I know. We probably would have been friends back then. Yeah, we probably would have painted some graffiti on some bridges.
Yep, I'm sure we would have. I'm sure we would have. I was just an asshole. I was like, it was like I was purposely designed to be a jerk to my mom and dad. I look back and I'm like, why did you guys love me? But they always did. You know, they were still always in my corner. They were always positive. I mean, they would get frustrated, but they were always good parents. And I think they set the bar for the kind of parent that I wanted to be, which I'm glad I had that example. You know, it's the regardless of how off track I would go or what a jerk I was, they would always try to lead me back, but, you know, lead you back without shackles. They'd try to lead you back by getting you to understand process and making decisions. And they were always there to support me. Always, you know, there was always that home base, which I thought was huge. So I try to be that with my kids, where we try not to be helicopter parents. We let our kids skin their knees and, you know, have all those experiences, but we're there if they need to get picked up, then we're there to pick them up. I think that's part of what I want to be as a dad.
Yeah. And I think, like, I only appreciate that. And even now, like, you know, maybe when I was 20, I thought my parents were dicks, you know what I mean? But, like, I don't know. I lost my dad when I was like, I don't even think I was 30 yet. So he never even knew two of my kids, and my second kid was a baby. So, you know, I've also lost that. So that puts a lot of things in perspective. I also lost my brother to drug addiction, you know. And again, like I said, I lost my brother like 3 years ago to heroin addiction. That's real tough. And so you put that in your family, that how tough that struggle was throughout your life of having, because it all started like in his teenage years. But, you know, again, we're a great family. Like, we all get along. No, none of us fight. Like, I know people that they're like, I don't talk to my sister. I'm like, how do you not talk to your sister?
I don't understand that either.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that.
I'm not one to judge either. So everybody has their reasons. Maybe they're toxic or like whatever. And that's
there's
not your fault.
Also a billion different ingredients that go into everyone's life being where it is at the moment. So I also try not to judge, but I don't get it. Yeah. I don't understand.
I just feel so lucky.
Yeah, I do too. So do your brother, did he get into heroin through pills and the tragic story there? We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
He did. He had ADHD as a child. My brother was a beautiful person. Him and I were like soulmates in our family. Like, we were the creative ones. And he is quite a bit older than me. He was 9 years older than me, but he always like took me under his wing. And he kind of reminds me of my oldest son with my youngest daughter. But he got into marijuana when he was like probably in middle school. And that just, you know, I know a lot of people are proponents of it, and I'm not huge against it or anything either. But for people who are already predisposed to addiction, it definitely is a gateway drug. And so he just got addicted to it. And, you know, that just led to cocaine. And then, you know, he ended up, and he was also addicted to alcohol. So later in his life, he was an alcoholic too. So he just like kind of went from drug to drug, you know, it didn't really matter what the drug was. But he battled with that his whole life. And like, that's the saddest part, is that he never really got to live like a normal life that we would know. Like, he wouldn't have even known what a normal life was for him, because every day he battled addiction to something. He had a demon the whole time. His whole life. He had a beautiful wife. They had a beautiful house, and he wanted that life, but you know, that didn't work out.
He couldn't be there fully.
And I mean, he honestly, it's sad to say, and I hate saying this about him because he's gone, but he basically became like almost like a street person. He was living from shelter to shelter. He got hepatitis C, so he had health issues. And, when you have an addict in your life for that many years, there's only so much you can do. You can love him. And so I kind of lost contact with him because his addiction was so bad. And, when I would be with him, like he would be jonesing and like throwing up, and like I just couldn't deal with it anymore, And I live really, really far away, but he knew I loved him. He would call me every few months. He never had a phone because we never knew where he was living. It's just so sad. And it's something that just happened to like a regular family, and my next door neighbor was an RCMP officer. So like our next door neighbor was a cop, which made it even worse because, we felt bad that we had this, this sibling that, I'm sure our neighbor felt bad too, that he couldn't help him, but he just never had a chance. It's a very tragic story. And I'm sure many parents who've lost children to heroin overdoses, and he wasn't even on heroin when he died. It's the typical story of he was clean from it and somebody came in with a needle and like, let's get high. And you go back to the same dose that you did the last time, which might have been lower than what he ever did, but his body just said, that's it.
Yeah. So, it is a sad story. Like you said, it's a tragic tale of a life that went wrong, but so is everybody in that scenario. Every addict or homeless person or whatever you're coming across, every one of those was someone's little kid once. You know what I mean? Life is tricky and it's delicate. And when you're prone to addiction, addiction's a powerful thing.
It really is.
And I think alcohol is a tricky one, right? Because it's such a huge part of our culture. It's a part of everyday life. And I have nothing against alcohol. Wine and beer are delicious. I nothing against it. But to me, it's far trickier than even marijuana. Much trickier because alcohol, the addiction to alcohol is ragingly prevalent throughout society. Exactly. It's almost to the point where it's kind of expected, at least to a small degree, that you're probably drinking more than you should be, or more than. So when you are prone to that addiction, that slope is it's a double black diamond. It's not a slow ride usually, even though it can take years. I think you just looking at it, when you get into that addiction ramp, it might take a long time before your life spirals, but you're hooked a lot earlier on, and you're not driving anymore. It's scary. I think about it with my kids, and I think about the heroin problem I don't know why it's kind of swept under the rug for the last 6 months or so. It's lost the limelight. It was being talked about, and now it's not. And I don't know why, but that scares the crap out of me because it's everywhere now. It's soccer moms and dads. I mean, it's not, heroin used to be rock stars and homeless people, and heroin is suburban, successful people now. It's terrifying how it's everywhere.
It's crazy. I've been lucky. Like in my whole life, I've never seen that kind of drug use. So even though my brother was a drug addict, I just was never exposed to it on a social level. So I can't imagine if I was, what I would have done, but it just was not something I ever really had access. Even even marijuana wasn't hugely prevalent when I was growing up. So
me either. And I didn't get into it when I was young.
The drug of choice was alcohol.
Everyone's drug of choice is alcohol.
Well, and again, like they teach kids about marijuana and they teach kids about all these other drugs and how it affects your brain, but they don't teach kids about alcohol.
And I think that's absolutely crazy. Like, because alcohol is far more dangerous than marijuana.
Especially because of your judgment impairment.
Right. And also the judgment impairment that leads towards impulsive behavior, aggressive behavior, where if you smoke some marijuana, you're probably not going to be impulsive or violent. You're just going to relax for a while. Right. So, and I know I'm painting a picture, but I don't know why alcohol doesn't get more focus.
Yeah.
On at least helping people understand their relationship with it.
Yeah. It is really surprising. So I hope that, you'll even look at groups like AA and different things like that. And it's just such a shame. You're shamed if somebody's an alcoholic and you go to AA or you go to Al-Anon, or you're shamed. Like you don't want to tell it. It's like suicide. It's like if you try to commit suicide or somebody who's tried to commit suicide, you're shamed. Like if your kid tries to take their own life in school, in high school, and the kids find out, that kid's done. They're the crazy kid. So, I mean, just overall society's, acceptance of these things is like, it's nobody's fault. It's not your fault. You shouldn't be judged for these things.
No, I think part of and there is like the mass judging and shaming. And I think a lot of that is fueled by those people's own internal shame of knowing what they're up to, or that it could be them. So shame on you, because I'll never do that, which is just a defense mechanism to keep themselves away from it.
Or that they do that because they're like, well, I would never do that. My kids would never do that. And the bottom line is it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how great of a parent you are. You have no control over what happens to your children, really. No. You do on some level, but, they could be at a roller skating rink one night and you think you're there with them. They go in the bathroom and they drop some acid.
Yeah, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah, you can't control every little thing. And so that's what's scary about that kind of stuff, is that, you have to do the best you can do, but you also have to be, educated to be aware of these things.
For sure. And that's like, at least the stance I take is I try to proactively educate the kids, not scare them. I mean, I've told my kids, you're probably going to, try some drugs. You're going to drink. You're definitely going to drink. Everybody drinks. And I just tell them about the pros and cons and what the reality is. And you guys, I tell them, you're going to make your own decisions. I'll drink beer with you as soon as you're a little older, but you're going to have to make these decisions yourself. And I hope that when you do, you think about it a little bit, and you think about, the good and the bad and how much you want to actually be involved in that. And there's nothing else I can do than try to get them to consider what they're doing. Right. I mean, that's the only tool you have as a parent.
Yeah, I mean, it's just explaining the abuse part of it. It's like, if you want to do anything in moderation, whatever that is, except for heroin, you can't do that in moderation.
But by definition, you can't do that in moderation.
But, if you want to drink or you want to smoke some marijuana, like, everything in moderation is okay, It's like, if you want to eat a hamburger in moderation, that's okay. You want to eat some fries. So I think just teaching that moderation part. Yeah, you're going to fail. You're going to maybe not drink in moderation, or you're going to eat too many hamburgers one week, but that's okay, because we do that. But just to always remain on the level of like everything in moderation. Yeah. Isn't that what our parents told us? That's like a saying from the 70s for sure.
They did. But I think the parents that we had, it was a different generation. And there was, like we started, I think, when we went down this path, there was way more autonomy. Parents didn't parent as much. They were great parents, and they were just doing what that generation did.
Right.
But yeah, you got told everything in moderation, but you didn't get explained why or what that meant, or what it looked like, or how to deal with the situation with your friends if they're having something and you don't want to, and how to cope with that, how to deal with it, maybe how to handle it. It's a couple of years ago, for the first time ever, me and a bunch of my friends and my wife did a Sober October. All following the Joe Rogan podcast, we jumped on the bandwagon for Sober October. So for the first time in any of our adult lives, we had a full month of complete and utter sobriety.
Wow.
No alcohol. Most of us only drink, but no alcohol, no weed, no anything for a whole month. And we added a diet component onto it, and then like a physical challenge to make ourselves better, to be outside of the comfort zone. And doing it for the first time ever, I didn't go into it like I have a drinking problem, I need to not drink. I went into it with a healthy relationship with alcohol, and I drank normal amounts with friends, and I wasn't getting drunk or anything. But man, the way I describe it to people is, by the end of the month, those Claritin ads where they peel away the layer and it's Claritin clear? I felt that.
Oh, wow.
It changed. It absolutely changed my relationship with alcohol.
Wow.
It changed because it impacts social situations. It impacts you monitoring your own behavior and just the way you interface with other people and environments. And I was saying that not to talk about me, but to talk about the shame side that you brought up, because I didn't feel ashamed, but if I would go out with buddies and want to order a non-alcoholic drink, like a non-alcoholic, order an O'Doul's or something, because I like the taste of beer. I don't need the alcohol. But that in itself creates a focus on you and a focus on, well, why aren't you drinking, man? We're all drinking. Everyone's drinking. Have a drink. Why don't you just drink? What's going on? And that's so much more real than you know.
It is.
So if somebody was actually struggling with alcoholism, I mean, I get it. It's that pressure is insanely tough. And so even if I'll do it, I'll order a non-alcoholic beer and I'll have it, but I'll tell the bartender to put it in a glass, because that way nobody asks me. I just want to talk about it. If I don't feel like having a drink, I'm just going to have a fake drink, but I don't want to talk about it. I don't want it to be the focus of our conversation. Why don't we just have a conversation? You drink your beer. But it was really mind blowing how much people get like weirded out if you're
drinking.
if you're not taking part with them.
Even when people tell you I don't drink, I'm kind of like, what? You don't drink?
Right.
What's wrong with
Weirdo.
you? And it should be like, I'm the weirdo, not them.
Yep. It's crazy what a difference that 30 days though. All of us had some hated it. Some people hated it.
Did.
I loved it. I've done it 5 times since.
Oh, wow.
Five different months since.
Wow.
My wife too. It's just, it's such a great reset button that it changes. You know what? The biggest thing I've noticed is that social stigma, and that is just that social weirdness around it. My friends have all adapted because out of the 5 months in the last 2 years where, all right, Adam must be doing it again. He's not ordering drinks, but there's that. And then there is the realization I had where I was more like a glass or two a day of wine or something like that. And I always thought, well, the doctors say that's healthy. This is what everybody does. It's great. It's delicious. It's how you unwind after work. It's just, I mean, all that social fabric stuff is all very real, right? But what I noticed when I didn't do it was nothing mind-blowing, but just nothing I'd ever examined before was, holy shit, like, so now I don't have a glass of wine or two, which means I don't have the snacks I didn't need or shouldn't be eating because my judgment didn't go a little bit, it wasn't impaired a little bit. I didn't stay up later watching TV. And then the next morning was that much better because I didn't stay up late and I didn't eat something before I went to bed or, and the cascading effect over 30 days of not doing those small, marginal, just not great decisions, nothing monumentally bad, but that changed everything.
Yeah, you must have felt amazing.
You feel like a different person. You feel like a different person.
Almost,
it's incredible. It's a cleanse, yeah, because your body goes through a lot of changes, but it's a cleanse for your head because it resets. Well, do I need to have that drink or do I want to have that drink? And it resets. Do I want to have that snack? Do I want to go to bed? What do I want to do with my morning? What do I want to do at the time? I feel like I have way more time when I do it.
You create a habit around it. So you come home, you sit down, you have a drink. Like if you don't do that, then what are you going to do?
Right. That's your social thing.
Yeah.
That's what you do with your time. And my wife and I would do that. If we somehow had a break on a Sunday afternoon, well, let's sit down and enjoy a glass of wine together and have some time. And that would be really nice. But then the rest of the day has a slant to it.
Right.
Even if you don't, I'm not saying you drink a bunch, but if you have a glass or two, you're just lazier than you would have been. It's your day changes. So now when we're doing those, like a month off or one of those times, we'll have a glass of kombucha or something. We'll still take the time, sit together and relax. But then when the time comes to an end, we're just in gear again, ready to go, right?
Yeah.
So,
or replace it with like, let's go for a walk or let's just like do something different, So that's pretty amazing. I don't think I've ever not drank for a month.
I had never. I had never.
14.
Yep. I had never. It felt, it was honestly, I was nervous. Like I wouldn't have ever thought I would be if someone had said, could you not drink for 30 days? Yeah, of course. But then when you're faced with the 30 days, you're like, what am I going to do? That's because it's part of you. It's part of your personality when you drink that often, when it's just part of your social fabric, because it's really a part of that social thing. And then eventually you learn about yourself that, okay, so I thought that the couple of beers loosened everything up and everyone talks. Well, you don't need it. You can just talk.
That's true.
Once you just relax. So anyway, it's nice. I've taken us way off on a tangent, which is part of what I like about the show. But, so next year, if you want to be in on Sober October, I'll bring you into the group. You can be part of the challenge.
I might have to do that.
You're not on the hook though.
I'm not like a huge beer drinker I like to have a drink here and there, but most of my drinking is influenced by my boyfriend because he likes to drink. So I just drink with him. I mean, he doesn't have a problem or anything, but he really likes the taste of beer. So he really likes to go get
it is delicious.
He likes like Old Hen, Speckled Hen or something. Like he has these kinds of beers that he knows where to get them. And it's just such a treat when you're in your life, when you work hard and you're taking your kids. And if that's something you really enjoy, it's like the person who just really, really likes some kind of food and they like cheese and they go to a certain place to get cheese. It's kind of the same thing. But on the grand scale of things, it's really unhealthy. Like drinking beer is really fattening.
Yes, it is.
So,
and it's not so good for your organs.
Yeah. So, if I didn't do those things, I probably wouldn't drink as much. But also work. That's the other thing. You're going out with clients, you're going out for lunch, you're doing all these things, and sometimes you drink, and it's just like you don't realize the effects on it, like you said. But yeah, Sober October, maybe I'm down with that next year.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I like the name, Sober October.
When we ran into each other at hot yoga the first time, that was Sober October. That was the challenge, was to take up hot yoga, and we had to do a certain amount of classes for the month.
Oh, is that why you're so cranky that day? No, I'm just kidding.
Come on. Probably though.
No, I'm just kidding.
And I don't I know I sound like I'm like shitting on alcohol or like holier than thou. And it's weird to have these conversations because it's such a touchy subject that people pretend they're not touchy about. I'm not against it. I love wine and beer, and
you're the first person to
I think
say
it's
that.
delicious, and we'll continue to drink it. I'm not against it. It's just a matter of realizing the relationship I had with it, so that I'm more of in the driver's seat now. Was a very, very different, a thing I didn't expect to notice. I thought I'd have a month of losing weight, and I really didn't know what else. But it turns out it was pretty life altering,
really
just
cool.
to have that clarity and clear moment. It was pretty cool.
It's awesome.
So forget about all that. Back to you.
No, that was awesome.
Let's talk about the Metro West Women's Network.
Okay.
When did that come to be?
So,
and what is it? We'll start with what it
so
is.
basically it's a networking group for women that I started online, and it was really meant for women to be in there, like referring each other business. So it's almost like a referral group. So if you're looking for like a web designer, or you're looking for a massage therapist, like we're all in there like helping each other and referring each other. So it's been really instrumental in a lot of women's lives. There's 4,000 people now in that group. And even just the amount of like what it's
4,000.
Yeah, 4,000.
You ever sit back and just look at that number and let it sink in? You started a group that's 4,000 people strong?
Well, I mean, no, not really, because Facebook groups can be really big, but the cool part about the group is that it's local and it has 4,000 people. What I really love about the group is that these women will go on there and they will say like, my business is because of this. I've basically created a community for women to grow their businesses because they don't have their own communities. So, and the funny part is it's not even a community where I would grow my business, because my business isn't really a small business like most of the people on there. But for me, I just love meeting people. I love doing the events. I love hosting the events. I just love meeting people. I love inspiring people. So for me, it's been really, really fun. And, I've met some really great people through it. And when I got divorced, that was something that I wanted to do, was like make some new friends and, meet some women that were also in, business and different stuff like that. And I now
like-minded women.
Yeah. And so I now had the time to do that. But, creating this community, I've seen so many other women explode because of it. Like people who've even started like their own networking groups, like they have a forum now. And even when they start their own Facebook groups, like they don't get the traction that this group gets. So, it's just really wonderful to see that. So we do like an event every month.
Every month?
Yep.
Nice. What are the events like?
So we do this like signature event quite often, like once every 3 months. It's a wine and networking night. And that is always like a really great event. And the thing about the events is like I have this whole thing about like not selling. Like these events and this group is just to meet and connect and refer, like no selling, because I hate that. And I hate that about sales. I'm actually going to be starting my own podcast someday about sales because I'll
help you.
I hate sales. But anyways.
I also hate sales, and I'll help you with the podcast.
Yes,
I think you'd be great at it.
I've reimagined the whole sales thing, but whatever. So the group is, and then we do like some really cool events. Like we do a sweat working event, which is like networking, but it's sweat working. So we do yoga, or we do some kind of exercise class. We're doing a digital vision board class on Friday night in Acton. So we like move the events around too. So they're in different areas of central Massachusetts and Metro West Boston. So they're more accessible to everybody. And so we're just kind of like doing these events that are kind of like fun, and other people don't really want, nobody would really think of them. And now I see like more people doing wine nights, and like we've been doing these wine nights for like almost 4 years. So it's just really cool, and I really enjoy the events, and they're easy. Like I've managed them so that they're easy. They're easy to run. They're easy to sell tickets to. It's all about like simplifying it to make it easy.
How many people come to the events?
Anywhere from
like the sweat working ones.
Yeah. Well, the sweat working, I think the last one we had 50. So we had a big yoga class.
It's a big turnout.
Yeah, a big yoga class at an office in Hudson, and they have like a huge space. So we had all these women doing yoga. Like it was way bigger than a normal yoga class.
50 people's huge. And
then we did a manifestation. So when you get that many people together and you're doing like a meditation manifestation, it's really powerful. So I loved it. I thought it was really great. And so, at a wine networking night, we might get anywhere from 20 to 80. Sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 80. It just depends. So, and it doesn't matter how many people show up. It's still always great.
Yeah, that's really cool.
We did a Christmas one. I think we only had 25 people. And sometimes we have vendors come to sell their stuff. And these vendors were like, this is the most we ever sold. And we had one the Christmas before and they hardly sold anything and there was 90 people there. So you just never know. For me, it's just always about having fun. So.
That's cool. And it gives you something outside of work to have support and to have a group of like-minded people and to bounce ideas for work off of, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite things is to grab friends in other industries and just talk about it as if they were working with me. Just go into what I'm thinking or what my ideas are and bounce it off people that aren't related to it or aren't connected to it and hear what they have to say.
Yeah. And I really like helping them. I meet with everybody. Like if somebody just emails me and they're like, hey, do you want to meet for coffee? I say yes. Like, it's not like, oh, you're not a business contact or like whatever. I always meet with people. And something that I've really done through the network is be able to like refer people work and connect people. And I think like building those relationships with people has been like really instrumental in my business. So those people might not be my customers. They might not be anything, but they're my fans. Mm-hmm. They share my stuff. They will do me a favor if I need one. So just building that with people, that you're a nice person and you're there to help people. I think that overall helps with my business.
Of course it does. It helps with life. And I think that's what people miss. A lot of people, sales people specifically, or small business owners, at least new small business owners, everyone goes to networking events, right? Mm-hmm. And everyone treats networking events for the most part as, what can you do for me? Who are you and what can you do for me? And that's why I don't go to them. They're just, it drives me nuts to have someone walk over, look up my name tag. It says, so what do you do?
I know.
I leave. That's what I do. Goodbye.
I hate talking about what I do. That's the other thing is like when people come up to me, like people in the women's network are like, oh, I didn't know you owned a digital agency. Like nobody even knows that about me because I don't talk about it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And my friends tell me I'm done. They're like, we want to hear about it. Like you're our friend. I'm like, I just don't want to. I spend all day with it. I don't need to hang out, talk about it now.
Yeah. And I just feel like the business manifests itself when you do that. A lot of the positioning that we've done with our company, like trying to get into those bigger projects and different stuff like that has all been, well, the agency and industry anyways, what people don't realize, it's all relationship based. Like it's who you know, how you get the RFPs and, so when you get invited to those things, that's because people know you, they like you, they trust you. And so, even though it might not be directly linked to the Women's Network, I've learned a lot about relationships and how those really fit into your business. And I think like when Mark and I first joined and, that was always my philosophy was like, be nice, do free things for people. Like he'd be like, and not in his discredit or anything, but he's like, people are taking advantage of you like sometimes. And I'd be like, no, I like doing these things. So then like a year later, when he saw I was going to all these networking things and how much time I was spending on it. I don't know if he valued it as much in the beginning, but a year later, he's like, all those seeds you planted last year, all those things you did, and, he did always let me do them. Like was always on board. But he's like, I didn't realize how much those would affect our business.
Yeah.
Like we are now seeing the results of things you did a year ago, like a seed you planted. And that's the whole patience thing is that things don't happen overnight.
People try to chase leads instead of exactly what you're saying is meeting and knowing people. People work in jobs. Jobs happen in companies. And eventually, if you just have an authentic relationship with a lot of people, it circles back to your private life and your professional life. And that to me, that's how you build a network. If you're going to these events and you're a shark swimming through the waters just looking for what can you do for me now, I mean, I don't want to talk to that person. I'm not going to have a relationship with that person. I'm not even going to speak with them right now. They're going to introduce themselves and no, thank you. And
like I'm going to people I delete on LinkedIn.
Right.
Like they message me and they're like, if you're trying to sell me something, delete.
Right.
Like I don't need anything right now. Like I'm just sitting here in LinkedIn land and I don't need anything.
Right. And your magic message is not going to create the demand from me. I'm not interested.
Exactly. If I need something, then that's different. I'll put it out there that I need something or I'll ask for a referral or I'll do whatever. But I just hate being sold to. And even like sometimes people will friend me on Facebook and they'll send me like, are you happy with your health? Like, you know what? Leave me alone.
Right.
Like, just let me be in Facebook land and not sell me anything. I'm deleting you as a friend because you suck.
Right. You're a parasite. You're a parasite,
And I know
and I don't
they're
want
just
you near
trying,
me.
and they're just trying to sell, and maybe that's what they're learning in their business, but that's not what you do. I mean, maybe you can get some clients that way, but do you really want to pester people to be your client? Like,
Right.
you're going to pester me until I sign up for like your free toothpaste or your extended eyelash wear or your fake nails, like whatever it is. Like, that's something you sell to people you know. Like, and if people know you sell it, they'll come to you if they like you. So
Right.
if I need some new nails, which obviously I'm not into my nails, but I'll come to you if I need it, or I'll ask. We have the same nails. So anyway.
What time is it? I know you have to go, and I don't want to keep you beyond our time.
10:36.
Oh, good. So we can
we're
still
good.
keep going for a little bit.
Yeah.
So so we went from working at the place in Portland to Ladybugs, which was like kind of a lifestyle agency, which enabled you to start raising the family and have that flexibility, to joining forces with Mark and forming the women's network. And now it's a very different beast than what it originally was. How does that impact your life now versus the lifestyle thing, where you still have 4 kids, you still have a personal life to manage, but now you've got staff and you've got a partner or 2 partners now. Plus it's got to take up some time to run the network with 4,000 people and an active membership showing up to events. So how does all of that impact your life? And it's a long answer, I know, and there's many answers, but what's the good, the bad, the ugly? What do you design around to make things your way? What do you feel takes over sometimes and needs to be managed? Well, how does owning a business impact your life versus working way back at, like, if you picture yourself still in a cubicle working for somebody else?
Like when I used to fall asleep on my desk at noon. So I think, it's definitely easier now. When I had Ladybugs, it was like amazing. I went to hot yoga every day. Like I didn't have to worry about really a lot. My business was running really, really well. And I really only required me to work like 4 hours a day, honestly. I just had it going. And honestly, when I did Bikram yoga every day, I was just super productive. So when I first joined with 3 Media Web, we were really busy. So we were definitely, like, I lost that side of things a little bit and having more time. And then the second year we were together, again, it was like really, really busy. So I think after that, we just decided like we need to start doing things that were not busy. Like, so the first thing we did was we started forcing each other to take vacation. So I would feel bad taking vacation because Mark would never take vacation. So we like kind of instilled this forced vacation policy. And I think that created...
Holding each other accountable for having a life?
Yeah. So we gave our employees and ourselves a week off, one at Christmas and one July 4th week. And we still do that because we said the only way we're not working is if the company shut down. So then after we started doing that, then Mark was like, okay, well now, we need to get out of the business. And we've been doing, like I said, the Gino Wickman books and using that EOS system lightly to kind of like grow our business. And Mark's like, okay, now we need to kick somebody else out of the business. Like somebody needs to not be involved in operations. And that person was me. He's like, you're doing what you're doing. We don't need you doing projects. We don't need you doing anything. We need you to continue to do what you've been doing, which is planting seeds, like growing our business, being strategic, coming up with ideas that we're probably going to shut down most of the time, but so he gave me that door to open, and to go pursue whatever it is that I thought would help grow our business. And he honestly, I give him a lot of credit because he trusted me to do that. Like he has no idea what I do every day. All he knows is that, we are where we are. And he knows a lot of it's because of what I'm out there doing.
Right.
I have to trust that he's doing a great job running the business. So as long as I trust that that's happening on a 100% awesome level, I can continue to think about how we're going to grow it. So,
and so far so good.
yeah, so far so good. So like one thing I've focused on is positioning, and I've been focusing on positioning for like a couple of years. And positioning takes a long time. It takes a long time from going from doing $20,000 or $30,000 websites to winning $100,000, $200,000 websites. Even getting the RFPs for those websites is a challenge. So that's been something I've worked on, and I think that's how, right now, that's where we are, where I kind of just continue to build strategy around the business. I bring it to my partners. They come to me when they need to do things, like if they need to hire, they need to, look at operations together. I'll come in and look at stuff. But typically, it's kind of weird that we're not working together, on a lot of stuff, but it's just the way it is. I mean, eventually it would be nice to get Mark more out of the business, but we need him in operations right now while we're growing, because that is his strength and that is what we've built the company on. So they kick me out and I get to do whatever I want, basically.
That's awesome. And what about your boyfriend and your kids? How does the business, or you being a business owner, influence or impact their lives?
So I've definitely changed a lot of stuff in my life, because I was even still working really, really hard, up until this year. And I made the decision that, I wasn't going to use my evenings anymore for work, because, I was working a regular 40-hour week, but then on top of that, I was doing events every other night, going to networking events and doing the women's network stuff. So I committed to not doing those anymore. And again, I got a little more kicked out of the business because we hired a sales director. So even though I was bringing in a lot of leads and customers and relationships, I was still managing, closing them, getting them through the pipeline. So having a sales director now has definitely taken that off my plate. So now I get a lead, and I wouldn't even call them leads. They're really almost closed deals. They're really pretty far down the pipeline by the time I bring them in, but just not worrying about that anymore. So I have more time. So I'm taking that time to do more of this, what I'm doing right now, doing podcasts, meeting people, going to networking events, and making that an integral part of my day. And trying to get better at managing the stuff I have to manage, because I still manage all of our brand. So that can be challenging because I don't have a team to help me do that.
So you're still kind of leading some of the creative efforts to make 3 Media Web who it is to the public.
Yeah, it's all integrated, with the positioning and, brand and stuff like that. So that type of stuff, what I do is I time block. So I've worked with a coach to help me with my time. So I time block. And then with my boyfriend, in my personal life, that is definitely where I struggle on a regular basis, because we both have our own children, we both have our own lives. And I would say that's probably been the most challenging part of my life, is trying to have somewhat of a normal personal life.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, and I think that's an hour ago, we were talking about this, regardless of whether you own a business or not, it's hard to have a personal life in today's day with the expectations put on people to provide. It's hard. So you have to cut your own way and figure out how you're going to do that. So yeah, I think it's always hard. I
don't have friends, if that makes you feel better. My friends. So another business owner once told me you can only really have 3 things in your life when you're a business owner, your family, your business, and one other thing. I forget what the other thing was, but it was friends was the one thing I couldn't fit in my life. So, I was well, if you can't have friends, how do you do it? And he said, well, my business people are my friends. So I treat those relationships like they're friendships and family. And so that's definitely something that I do. When I go to work every day and I have lunch with somebody, I really embrace that, this is a friendship. This isn't just a work lunch. This is my friend. And so I feel I don't have the need to fill that friend thing. Ooh, I need to go with the girls. And I do sometimes, but for the most part, I don't really need that in my life.
Do you miss
right
it?
now.
Did you have a group of friends that you no longer see, or you just don't see them as often?
Especially when I was married, because I had more time and I had somebody to watch my kids at night and stuff like that. So I definitely did. But, divorce is a really traumatic thing, and how it pans out when it's done is not always, you think, I'm not saying any of my friends deserted me or anything like that, but it definitely, my life has changed a lot since then. And even my friends that I knew for 15 and, years or so, some of them got divorced and their lives changed, and some of my friends moved away. And it's really hard to form those friendships all over again. Like you can really never get those friendships back. So
no, definitely not the same.
Yeah. So my friends are still my childhood friends and they live all over Canada and the US. So what I try to do is maybe like go visit one of them like once or twice a year or meet up with them somewhere, or my sisters, because they're my family.
Well, they're friends too. They're built-in friends.
Yeah. So that's what I try to do. I don't try to build it into my like right now, my friends are my daughters. Like I go to Wachusett with my daughter on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the work week. And it's such a joy being in the car with her, talking to her, listening to her, what goes on in her life, looking how cute she is in her little speed suit and her little Van sneakers, carrying like these skis that weigh like 50 pounds all around the mountain. Like that's my joy right now. And that's, the difference between maybe having sons and daughters, because daughters seem more like they're like your peer, like your friend as a mom. I loved hanging out with my boys too, but they wouldn't like sit there and jabber to me and tell me about their life. Like, they were just my boys and they broke things.
They definitely break things.
And we had fun together, But my daughters are like, and then my other daughter, she'll come with me. We'll ski together. Like my boys would never ski with me. They would just like blow me off behind them and be like, see ya, mom, So they definitely have different roles. So I'm enjoying that. And the other thing is maybe I didn't embrace that as much with the boys because I had 2 little girls too. So I can never really focus on them as much. So
were the boys older?
Yeah.
So the 20 and the 18 are both boys?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But now the boys are self-sufficient. I don't worry about them. They still love me and they call me and they'll come visit when, my son came home for Christmas. But the coolest thing was my older son that's in the Marines. He came home and he said, I don't know what to get the girls. So he called me at work one day and he's like, Mom, can you come home and see what I got the girls for Christmas? So I come home and he has a bearded dragon. Like nice. Of all the things he could buy the girls for Christmas, he buys them a bearded dragon. But like that just said something to me about like how I raised him, because we always had pets and we always valued those things. He didn't buy them anything materialistic. He didn't buy them like, a pair of Vans. Like he wanted to buy them an experience, rather than a thing. And I just felt like that was really special because it said a lot about how he valued experience.
Yeah, that's
life,
really cool. And unique.
Yeah, and that I feel like in a way I gave him good experiences in his life, and that's what I gave him. I never really bought him tons of stuff, or I was always that mom that was like taking you places, like, the other moms wouldn't want to go, like, or whatever, like take you to the skate park and hang out with your friends. And I was always like there, like I wouldn't drop them off or whatever. So I feel like I gave them that experience, and and with him being gone, the lizard is like, or the dragon, whichever you want to call it, it's there every day and they get to play with it. And it's like an extension of him. So I thought that was really special. I hate the thing, but
that is a really cool gift. And I can see especially where he's gone, that's like a way to think of him every day. That's really cool.
And for a guy that age, the fact that he even thinks about that stuff is like, wow.
It is.
And
the girls are probably too young to even gauge it a little, but do you think, is there any legacy aspect to your business? Do you think either of the boys are going to have any interest in it? Or I don't think mine are either.
My son asked me if he could intern this summer and I said no. Because first of all, like I'm not babysitting, I already know he doesn't clean his room. I already know I have to ask him 50 times to do something. If I have to do that in your personal life, I'm not going to do that in your business life. So he's interested in owning his own business, my younger son. But I'm like, you go find your own job. You go find your own thing. Like you don't even like what I do. So I'm not just going to give you a job to intern. So, and then my other son that's in the Marines, I have no idea what he'll do.
How does he like the Marines?
He likes it. I mean, I don't think he loves it.
How long has he been in?
Like 2 years now, 2.5. So he's going to go to college. I think he wants to go to film school and do something related to film. He's like a big gamer and he likes to film games, and he has like a big, what's the account where Twitch. He's big on Twitch, like where he videos himself playing video games with the commentary.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of YouTubers making quite a living showing themselves play video games.
I've seen his TikTok channel. I don't know how much promise there is in that.
I really feel like a parent, like I'm old when my kids are watching YouTubers, and I'm like, why would you watch this? I'm just too old to get it, because it's just some loud kid playing a game and yelling and being way over the top. Like there's no way he's that excited all day, every day, unless he's either on a lot of drugs or well, that's it. It's either that or he's just built this persona, which I don't take away from that kid at all. I mean, a lot of them are making a great living, and I think they figured out a niche. But why would you watch it? Why would you just, you own that game?
Yeah.
If we're giving you your time on the TV, why would you watch that guy play it? Why wouldn't you just play it?
I guess it's the difference between two. Like if, let's say you're a skier, like, so you like to watch skiing. You're not skiing.
I've never liked watching any of the stuff that I do. Well,
your kid probably wonders like why you like listening to podcasts about businesses.
I do that a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts. They know that. It's because that's always what's on in the car when they get in. They're like, my 10-year-old's like, a podcast will start. He'll be like, blah, blah, politics, blah, blah. Can we not talk about grown-up stuff?
I know I'm a big follower of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's like a meditation guy. And so I have his books on all the time in the car because they're really long. So I'll like listen to bits and pieces of them. And my kids will be like, can you shut the meditation book off, Mom? I know it's going to make me clear. I know it's going to make my brain better. I know I can reinvent myself Mom, we know all this. So just shut it off.
We get it. We don't want to. I've even tried to get my kids, I know they're not going to be interested in it, but try to get my kids to do like small moments of meditation and try to get them to, without calling it meditation or anything, just to get used to like I call it like brain exercises. You know, my kids are crazy and they're into sports, and like my 8-year-old's always doing pull-ups and like showing how strong he is. And that's great. And I try to explain it's the same thing for your brain, you know, but they're not getting on board.
Yeah, no.
It is not. I have an app and everything, but they're not getting on board.
They have it on Wednesday mornings at my daughter's school. They have mindfulness, which is kind of cool. But I feel like for kids, you need to make it a little bit more interesting. So I feel like guided meditation would be great for kids, but it has to be like more geared to what they think about. So like I went to a meditation the other day, which I'm an advanced meditation person. So it's easy for me to go into any meditation class and just meditate. Like if I don't like it, it doesn't matter because I just know how to meditate. But I brought like 2 newbies with me. And so it was a visualization meditation, and visualization is very hard. It is. And that's, and I didn't feel like they had enough, instruction before that. So they went to the meditation and they were just like, wasn't for them, but they weren't advanced enough to do that meditation. I even found it difficult. So I think, if you had a meditation for kids, it should be like, imagine a dinosaur breathing, I think they need to make the dialogue something that kids can relate to.
Yeah.
So that same woman told me she did one with clouds, where she's like, imagine a cloud. And the cloud is, because, when in guided meditation, they have you imagine like, let's say a shape or a word or something. And they're always like, kind of like moving that around in your brain so that it's changing shape or changing size or changing color. So if you can do that with something that kids can relate to, then you might be able to capture their attention. So she said she had this group of 12-year-old boys, and she did this cloud meditation, and they were like, yeah, I was on the cloud and the cloud was floating me. And so that actually attracted them.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I thought that was really interesting when she told me that.
That is, and yeah, I tried, there's an app I tried having my kids use that does like children specific guided meditation, and they get bored, and I get it. Like I didn't take up meditation until much, much later. I don't think I would have been meditating at 10 years old.
No.
It might be valuable, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's like investing. Like imagine if you started investing when you were 10 years old.
Would have been awesome.
We wouldn't even be here right
great.
now.
Yeah. I'd probably still be doing the podcast because that's for fun. But yeah, it's things would be very different. Yeah. But it's not the way it goes. Or not the way it went, at least. What I ask everybody this. Now that you've been running a business for a while, is there anything that stands out as an aha, like I didn't see that coming, or something you didn't expect about owning a business?
I guess I never really thought about not being in my own business. So when you hear a lot of business, entrepreneur, growth experts talk about this, about getting out of your own business. Like you have to grow your business, you have to get out of it, unless you want it to be where you're involved in it. But if you want to grow and scale a business, you can't be involved in it. And I think the hardest part for me, with merging with 3 Media Web was getting kicked out of the business, because I always call it kicked out marks. I was like, you make it sound so bad. We did it to help you and to help the business, because I'm the only person in our business that's an extrovert. So, and I'm also the only communications expert. I mean, the fact, the amount of writing and PR and all that kind of stuff I get for our agency, it kind of puts us at an advantage, because other agencies are not investing in their own businesses the same way. It's like, well, I'm going to do this for my clients. Like, we grow businesses for a living. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So we need to do it for ourselves first.
Be visible.
Yeah. So that was, and so I felt, and every time too, in a small business, and when you're not the CEO, because I went from being the CEO of my own company to not being the CEO of another company, is that you kind of get a little bit offended every time you have to move around the company. So, I was the creative director on like a lot of our web projects. And then when we just stopped doing small web projects and I didn't have to be the creative director anymore, I was kind of like, okay, well, that's taken away from me. Like, now I'm not the creative director anymore.
Who am I?
Yeah, like, who am I? But I've actually become an expert at being a chameleon. So having to move wherever the company needed me, it was a huge shift in a mindset that, not to feel rejected is actually a growth thing. It's like every time I go in and I start something, we basically hire someone to take it over. So it's like, wow, like I'm creating more things as I keep going along and I keep moving my way through the company. So not getting offended and getting upset by that growth and having to be the person that moves around because I can. I mean, I think that's great that I could, even today, if they said you need to do this job, I could jump into the company and do it. Mm-hmm. I'm trained on everything except development. I would, not do that. Well, I hate project management too, because we have a checklist and I hate those. So, but I could come in, I could help with accounting, I could help with like whatever, because I've done it all already.
Right. You've worn the hat.
Yeah. But, my business partner, Mark, he's like, we don't need you to be in the business because we can hire people. I can't hire anyone to do what you're doing now. Like, I couldn't hire anybody to do that because you love this business. You are the best person to talk about it. You know it inside and out. You can talk, you're not in operations now, but you know everything about our operations. You know how we scaled it, So, So they set you free, but you had to learn how to see that. Yeah. Yeah. And not take it as like they don't want me around anymore.
Right.
And the other thing is because, you have a couple people managing things, like too many fingers in the pie is not good.
No,
either.
No, it's not. It's not good for anybody.
Yeah. And, they've unleashed me now, and I don't know if they regret it or not, because I'm a beast now. And, just this week alone, it's just like, I'm just always shaking my head. Like, I don't know how I end up here, like every week with some other big thing in my hand. Like, one thing we did this year was we created a relationship with a huge agency out of Boston. And, we're involved in 2 major RFPs with them. And the first one was like, they knew they might not win, but just the fact that we would have such a large agency come to us, involve us, put us there as their partner, to me, that's 5 years of work that happened like overnight in a year. Like, basically I've been kind of building us up to this point, but those major accomplishments that you see when you put that hard work in is worth every penny.
Yeah, it's
that's
cool.
Where we want it to be.
It is. And you know what? Random, unrelated, but you made me think of, because I have you here and I'm talking to you as opposed to someone else. You know what I like about our industry? Because mostly I'm not talking to other marketing people. I'm talking to other people that own different kinds of companies. What I love about it is I am so quick to be bored with things. I'm not the guy that's ever had one passion and it's driven my entire life. I envy those people, but I'm not wired that way. What I love about what we do is how it's always different.
It is.
It's always different. And it's always connected to things through our clients. Like this last couple of weeks, we have a client in the military and first responder space. And one of the things they make is a product that's really well suited to contaminated patients and treating them and moving them throughout different places to get treatment without contaminating others. With the coronavirus happening, this whole thing has come to life in creating and advising the client on how we do this, and of course it's a sensitive thing, and we don't want to just be capitalizing on it, but we want to raise awareness on how we can help and how to contain the
timing is really, really great for you.
But the timing is important too. Like, they were already a client, but now this is on fire. This isn't something that they were focused on 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, right? So other than this, I would just have no visibility to that whole thing. But now I'm directly connected to something that can help. And that,
you like jumping in.
I do. I love jumping in. I love jumping in, get the lay of the land, see how I can help, add my help, and then I'll back out and go jump into something else.
That's awesome.
It just suits me. It's so well suited to my personality. And I know your personality is really in line with mine.
Yeah, no, definitely. And definitely, like, with the business strategy and growth, like, that's really where I shine, because I'll come to the table and be like, I want to do this. I think, 2 years ago or a year ago, I might have got like, let's put that on the Trello board for next year. Like, now I get, okay, how do we get there? Like,
and that's because you can, right? Because they kicked you out of all the other stuff.
It's not just that.
Now you can.
I think it's that part of it, but it's also that everything I've done up to this point related to this role has been exponentially, grown our company. And so just getting off that whole like mindset of we have to do things a certain way. And like, now I'm allowed to not do things a certain way, and how that's benefiting us. We can't not do things a certain way within the company. Like, we can't not design websites the way we do them, but we can play with our business strategy, and we can figure out how we want to grow and where we want to go and how we do it.
And who we want to grow with.
And who we want to grow with. So, and like I said, I come up with a lot of ideas, but when we have one that everybody likes, everybody's on board, and I love that. And in a way, that makes my job a little easier, because sometimes people do want to get involved in the project. Like, so we did a sales empowerment conference last year for women, and we just like wanted to try it out. It kind of was like in line with my women's mission, and most of our clients, believe it or not, are women. So I wanted to give my clients something valuable that they could use. And sales is such a part of like marketing and the whole buyer's journey that I kind of wanted to give them a boot camp day where they could learn how to sell more, basically, tied into their marketing, tied into their after sales. So we did this whole conference. So at the time, we got this new sales director, and after the conference, she was like, I loved that conference. And I was kind of like, oh yeah, that was great. And I wasn't really thinking like, maybe I do it again, maybe I wouldn't. Like, she's like, no, we're doing that again. And we're taking it to Boston. And I'm going to have you introduce you to some people that I think could help. So now this year we're doing the conference in Boston. In October, we have an awesome partner. We're having it at Laugh Boston. And they're partnering with, awesome. They have an innovation arm of their business where they do sales training. And so it was like a perfect fit. And the minute I walked in there, so the one thing that I felt about the conference that we did was that I felt like the women that we had were amazing, but they didn't have a stage because of the location where we had it. It was a great location, don't get me wrong, but it just didn't have that stage, like, where they're up there. And so when I walked into Laugh Boston and I saw the stage, and I had looked at other spaces all around Boston, I walked into Laugh Boston, and I'm like, this is like TED Talk material stage thing, So it's out there in the universe now. I haven't announced it yet, but yeah, so that was just something that, I did it once, and kind of like when you do it once, you're like, okay, that was done. That's done. Like, let's check it out. She's like, no, next year it's bigger, it's better. It's in Boston. One of the speakers, her company is going to sponsor it, and they're going to help us with a party before. It's like, okay, I wasn't really planning on that, but I guess you can help me.
Cool to see though, when something you did inspires someone that much to take it to the next level.
Well, she's the sales director, so she values that. Like, she's like, I've worked in marketing, I've worked in sales. This is what our customers need. This is what we need to bring them as value.
Well, so many people, almost all companies that I come across have this real disconnect with sales and marketing, even though they'll slap a title of sales and marketing director or VP of sales and marketing on a person who is almost always a salesperson and doesn't know anything about marketing. And the disciplines should be tied together, but they're always completely siloed, and they don't work together. And it's another whole podcast episode, but
I'll have you on my podcast.
All right, perfect. It's a poison to the company to have those two separated, because they should be married. They need to be happily married, because they feed each other and they work together. But people don't understand how, and they don't understand
people
why.
Talk about alignment, but they don't talk about. I think when they talk about alignment, they talk about it in terms of like technology. They're not talking about it in terms of everybody being in alignment, like with the goals, with the mission. It's like I said earlier, like culture is the driver of everything.
Right.
And so, you know, if the salespeople don't realize that, and if you see, the other thing is like just even not thinking about sales. It's not sales. Like it's not sales really anymore. People are
Relationships.
buying. Yeah, it's all relationships.
And marketing can begin and foster those relationships. It all has to work together and be tied together. But to your point, I've even seen it where the company learns about it and they get into bringing it into the culture, but it doesn't become the culture. So you've got, okay, we have these workshops, we have conferences, everybody learns about marketing, and they're gonna put together sales and marketing, and within a month, sales is back to now, and they're ignoring marketing completely, and I'm not vilifying sales, or marketing is not doing what they need to back a salesperson and giving them the tools they need for when they're doing their outreach, and it just becomes two divisions again, and it's a nightmare. Now, what time is it?
It's probably close to 11.
Yeah, because we have a real habit on the show of going way past deadlines, and we just keep talking.
We have to say goodbye.
Yeah. Is it time?
Yep.
All right. On that note, let's say goodbye.